then you got the document and you got to read it. And then what was, yeah, well, I guess we could start from there, which is you got this thing with all this kinds of, this is this, and this is this, and this is what I see with this. What was like getting the document and reading it, and then how was it? Because you had to essentially figure out how you could do it, because there's a lot of stuff there, but you also had to figure out how you could do it with, the budget that was given and all those kinds of things. So what was that, finding that, figuring out how to approach it, etc.
Yeah, I enjoyed this document so much, and I appreciate your efforts that you put into it, because it is very well constructed, very
Thank you.
thoughtful, very thorough, and it's one of the best examples of creative briefs that I ever got.
Okay,
So
I'll take it.
it's just, I think I'm gonna, show it as an example of how a creative outline should be constructed. So kudos to you. And when I was reading it, this magic things started happening, because I almost immediately, I haven't even ended it, and I started to get these images in my head, thinking about how it can be done, what can be done in a slightly different way. But I think that I catch your essence,
Yeah.
the thing that I mentioned before. I catch the mood, and I'm just glad that we got synchronized on this feeling, though I haven't heard the songs beforehand.
That's
But
true. Yeah, that was before
yeah, go
you
ahead.
actually heard that was before you actually heard the song. So talking about the difference, actually, where you usually hear the songs and going from that, but you had just had this, it was like, I don't know, 2 pages, I don't know, it was 2 or 3 pages. There were pictures. I didn't write that much, it was just there were pictures, but there was a couple of pages of documents, to a couple of pages to kind of go off of. So that's before you heard anything, and you're already getting kind of a concept or idea. I guess you had heard Omens, so you had a little bit of a sneak peek
Yeah.
into it. But yeah, that's kind of wild. So you were already getting kind of glimpses of things, of what to how to approach it.
Yes, and as I said, it was just, some kind of magic, because skipping time ahead, the results that we got are surprisingly, they are very close to what I saw right from
Yeah.
the beginning. And I don't know how it happened. It's purely magical, but
Yeah.
I'm just trying, I'm still reflecting on that thing, on that process. I'm trying to analyze how such things work, because it's important for me as a creative person to know, to be conscious about things that are happening, because it's a part of creative process. But yeah, that was just, an immediate scene
Yeah.
of how it should be done.
The
And you remember we had this video conversation,
Yes. Yeah.
and when we shook our hands virtually
Yeah.
on the project, and after I got the confirmation from the label, from Enrage, we sailed off right away. And that was one of those rare projects which just roll on without any obstacles if you
Yeah.
put enough energy into it.
Yeah.
So it's just started off, and I was into it completely.
It
And I
is.
didn't think about how we will do it. I was
Yeah.
thinking just about, I need to do it, because that's the moment. I should stick to it.
Yeah.
I should not lose that feeling.
There's something crazy about these moments where something just comes to you, and you can just, on the musician side, the music side, sometimes putting something together, like you get initial idea, and then there's a lot of figuring things out of like, okay, how to do this part of it, this part of it. But then sometimes there's some things where you get it and you're like, I see everything, and or you just sit down and you're like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. And you do something, and then like, that's it. And it just kind of happens. It's crazy when those like you're saying, it's there's some sort of magical thing that seems to happen. Some, lightning rod to the universe, or how things were created, the big bang. It's wild how that happened. So to kind of give also to give a little bit of a background, the part of the concept was essentially that there's a house, there are rooms, each room is like a museum piece. And so how it was it during that initial process of like having things come to you where you're seeing these descriptions of a lot of rooms, but is that where it kind of came to you where you're like, it's all one space? How'd you go from here's this big thing where there's this and there's this, and kind of bring it into this one place?
As far as I remember, I couldn't get it, wrap my head around how can we show 5 rooms in a single
Mhm.
image. So I was, thinking about this house concept, but then I realized that is it going to be a dollhouse or is it going to be a real house?
Mhm.
Should we like find a house, a real
Yeah.
one, or should we do a computer graphics? But I just felt that it's not the right way. I
Right.
couldn't,
Yeah.
I couldn't see the forthcoming steps.
Yeah.
So I was just going with the flow, and I thought maybe could it be a room? Okay, let me ask Victor about that. What he thinks about this, and it just happened that that was the way, that was
Yeah.
the right way to do it. And again, I was not so tightened to the shape, because it doesn't matter if it's a
Yeah.
house or if it's a huge building or it's a room. It doesn't matter to me. It's mostly what I care about is how to convey the message behind it,
Yeah.
because obviously it's not a song, it's not an EP about a house, right?
Yeah.
It's about
Exactly.
memories. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So let's just find another shape, how to, how to wrap it in a different shape.
Yeah.
And if it works, it works. And
Yeah.
I
And
think
it
it worked.
it did absolutely, and it's super interesting to hear that too, and kind of think about it because, like you're saying, you couldn't exactly, a sense, see how to do that, and that's also partially probably because I was trying to figure out how to. I had these kind of wild ideas of all this different stuff and like this huge journey and blah 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 blah. So I was trying to figure out how to condense it, but I was still so stuck into this initial idea that I myself couldn't break it down to um break it down to get closer to what the actual what's the, like you were saying, what's the point of the story? Sure, if there's all this crazy stuff that's happening, maybe it could work then, but I was still so caught up in the past and memories that I couldn't do it. So it's always amazing to have like that other eye to basically be like, no, this is the actual story that's happening. So yeah, super cool, and so it's so necessary and needed. That's what's kind of crazy, like, yeah, that it had to go that way. um I don't know, working on like 5 songs at the same time, was that intimidating?
I didn't think about it.
Yeah.
I was just okay, 5 songs, whatever.
Yeah.
That's what I have. That's the initial state of things, and 5 is fine. I wasn't expecting like I wasn't thinking about how much time it will take. I wasn't thinking about how hard it would be. I was just, doing the right thing at the
Yeah.
moment. And I like when something happens out of plans, because that's where you start to be creative. That's
Yeah.
when you try to figure out new ways of doing things,
Yeah.
So no, it wasn't intimidating. It was fun.
Good. Yeah, it's hard to imagine what that's like, because yeah, I know there are times where like where some of the working on it felt like a lot, just because I was also discovering a lot and learning a lot at the same time. But good. I'm glad that it was you were able to live in the fun and the kind of the daring of the excitement of how am I going to do this, kind of living in that red zone of I don't know exactly what this is going to be, but there's still a lot of excitement that can happen there. I do remember you were mentioned before we did have this conversation where you kind of give me the lowdown, and I remember you sending me the references that you'd kind of put together for it, and I was like, that does look right. That does already look good, and it felt like it was like you're saying capturing that feel and the mood and the kind of not exactly nostalgia, but that kind of memories. And something that you said when we spoke really stuck out to me, which was you were saying liminal spaces, which is a term I heard, but I hadn't heard in so long. And I was like, that's really good. And that's something that I think was that is something that's still so true in the very, very beginning when I was coming up with this stuff is this basically in between spaces, something like yeah. So that really stuck out to me. I remember I literally just watched Stalker just like a couple of like maybe a month ago or something like that. So I was like, oh, something like that. But were there within those references? Obviously, you're pulling images, but were there any kind of pieces of existing media, TV or art or photographs that you thought about or kind of pulling from or kind of had at the back of your head while you were putting this together?
Yeah, actually, there were a lot of interesting coincidences because at that time, when we were, just starting this project, I was taking an advanced photography classes, and I was spending a lot of time, going through portfolios of various photo artists, seeing a lot of beautiful pictures, and that thing that I was really I was very interested at
Mm-hmm.
is that cinematographic look of in photography.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where the concept of liminal spaces came from.
Yeah.
Not the concept, but the idea. Um, and yeah, it was about how to picture a place which doesn't exist,
Yeah.
but which looks like a real place.
Yeah.
So this uncanny feeling of something that isn't right, but at the same time it looks fine. It looks okay.
Yeah.
Think of David Lynch's Red Room from Twin
Yeah.
Peaks, or works of Andrei Tarkovsky.
Yeah.
It's like how to create this set, how to create that visual image.
Yeah.
And I stumbled upon works of American photographer. His name is Michael McCluskey,
Michael
and
McCluskey.
he
Okay.
was he was taking pictures of rural Midwest. And he actually, I read an interview with him, and he said that he walked out of music industry at some point to become a photographer. So
Oh wow.
it was
Okay.
another
Yeah.
coincidence. So his works,
And then you walked him right back into the music industry.
yeah. So I was very inspired by his works, and I included some of them in the references on Pinterest board. And that's just another coincidence.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I didn't think that we should have go into this direction where we should do it exactly
Yeah.
like these references. I don't really like it because it feels like we are trying to mimic something, we're trying to recreate something while we are creating something different.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm happy with the result. I'm happy that we have figured out our own visual language,
Yeah.
and it really looks different, though it's based on some imagery that we have selected
Yeah.
before.
It's always an interesting thing to because you don't necessarily have to, but a lot of times when creating things, we exist in a world we're not blind to, and we exist in a sorry, some coming up with things to say sounds so cliche at times, but we do exist in a world. We are all alive, and
Yeah.
constantly seeing things, and subconsciously or consciously being influenced by things. But there is that line of, yeah, they're either something that I like or something that's very interesting. It's not just, like you said, recreating that, but also, like, even if it's there in some way, you're trying to essentially go your own way in that same area, or in a similar space or something, so it's not that copy. I know that's, and I think that's probably true in any medium. uh there are some, like, there's ABBA in Omens, but you wouldn't necessarily you wouldn't necessarily be able to tell that. But that kind of disco-ness, etc. But yeah, I do think, like you said, you were able to create this a different space. It feels like it is a specific space, and it feels like its own space. I did want to ask you about a couple of the songs. Omens, which the visualizer became available as of June 22nd. This is recorded in the past, and it was available. It will be available, but it is now available as of June 22nd. So we kind of talked about how you'd worked on it before, and it was in a different sense, and hearing it again was kind of created this different, felt like a new experience. But also, part of the kind of that document was, there's a lot of stuff going on, but something that was a constant across was, there's space, but then there's something that's representative of that song. Omens, something very simple, which is just a bell. How was it trying to figure out, how do I do, because it's just a bell, what can you do? Now, it is a visualizer, so it's not like a huge music video, but still, like, how did you come up, try to figure out, what do I do, or how do I kind of still stay in that, create that mood, and not have it just be static, but also that kind of meditative look into?
Yeah, and I just need to mention that I never intended to create, music videos as
Yeah,
we used to know it. It's not like a short film with a
right.
story. It's not a big, a big thing. It's more like I think of it like an image with an additional time dimension.
Yeah,
So it's like an album cover in time
yeah.
for each song. So talking about the bell, when I listened to the track, I mean the Omens, um, when I listened to the track and I read the lyrics again, I realized that it's not the bell. It's a metaphor, right?
Yeah,
It's something that maybe wakes you up or keeps you alive or whatever. It's not the bell.
yeah.
It looks like a bell, but it's not it. And
Yeah.
there's a song by Brian Eno and Carl Hyde. I don't remember when it was released, but it is called "Who Rings the Bell."
Oh, okay.
And
I'll have to listen to it.
yeah, and there are words in it: "Who rings the bell? Who pulls the rope?"
Yeah,
And I couldn't stop thinking about this song while working on Omens
yeah,
video. And I'm glad that there's still questions left open
yeah,
about this bell, what it
yeah.
is,
It
and
which
who rings it,
Yeah, and it's
because
interesting
I don't
because
know.
and I love that it's in this space, and it's the I remember when we were talking about it, and you were saying the bell, and I actually totally I forgot what it was. I was like, what bell? What is he talking about? And then I had to go back and think about, right. It's Omens, because there's the lyric
Omens, yeah.
about being buried, and back in the day, there's the bell. They used to have a bell leading into the casket, so if someone was actually alive, they could ring it. But as well, most of the times people, we don't connect to all the lyrics right away or like catch them right away. So like you said, having that question of like, what is this? It's also so odd for it to be in a room, just like somewhere there in the room. So it's like, what's the point of it? What's supposed to mean? That open-endedness to it is uh, works so well. Interesting, you were saying, you know, it's not about the bell, and that's true too. But for voicemail, which is the visualizer itself is released as of the 27th of June, so you can watch it. That is a little bit more straightforward because it is, in a sense, it is the a phone, which is the main focus of this. Like you said, a great way to put it. I kind of think of it as visualizer, but also like an extended photograph, extended imagery for the song. So that one, it's not, I don't want to say, not saying on the nose, but that one's a little bit more, here's the song, here's what's happening. What was it figuring that out? Because it is slightly different from something a little bit more what could feel random versus voicemail being specific to a phone experience. So
Well, yeah, originally, as it was in the outline, it was intended to be an image of a cell phone.
yes.
And obviously it is ringing, it is keep missing the call. And when I started working with that scene, I took some close-up shots of the phone itself, and it had that, pleasant feeling.
Yeah.
Just the way it looked, all the details of a pre-smartphone era device.
Yeah. How'd you land on
Uh,
that, by the way? Because I was like, that's an old phone. Old phone. I remember those phones.
it was a
But
long story actually, because
really,
I was when I was looking for props for this project, I thought it's gonna be easy to find an old phone somewhere, maybe on the flea market or on
yeah.
Facebook Market,
Yeah.
whatever. I thought there are plenty of them because no one uses them anymore. But it happened that it's not that easy because it's hard to find a working one and
Oh,
a
yeah,
nice
right.
looking one.
Yeah, because it can't be beat up. It can't
Yeah,
be it can't be dinged up too much, right? It's got to actually and work. Yeah.
and it should be operating because we need, we need it to receive calls. Its
Yeah.
screen light should be working. So a lot of requirements. So
Right.
uh, I couldn't find anything, and I almost gave up. But then I suddenly realized that I have my own dumb phone, which I carry with me just in case, if my iPhone dies or if I'm in some kind of hostile situation.
Yeah.
Um,
So that's your phone?
so yeah, that's
Oh.
my phone, and it means a lot to me because it belonged to my friend
Mm.
who gave it to me at some point. But we have a lot of good memories together. We used to hang out, travel a lot, and this phone reminds me of him. So
Yeah.
maybe that's the reason why I didn't want to, why my brain didn't send me any signals to use it, because
Yeah.
it wasn't my private life.
Yeah.
So, but when I failed at finding finding a phone for this project, I decided that maybe that's the moment where this old phone will help me, and it
Yeah.
it did it.
It got you out of the tough
So
situation, like you were saying, like, I don't know what to do. There it is.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That's why I have it on me all the time. And I also like the way it played its role because it looked good in the video,
Yeah.
and everything worked, and it was vibrating, it was flashing the screen, um,
Yeah.
and
It
yeah, that's how it got there.
yeah. And like
Part of my
you sorry, like you were saying, there's there's an element of like a warmth to it too, because there's light,
Yeah,
there is light there, but it's not such a huge screen, which is totally overpowering. It's, they're still bright. Those phones are still very bright, but the, numbers kind of light up, but it is also this kind of contained thing. Uh, the screen itself within, this phone, it still has a lot of that kind of warmth, and also gives this kind of past to us, that kind of nostalgic feeling, and also feeling of past, of being out of in a different place, different time.
exactly. Yeah, and I'm glad that I had an opportunity, to contribute my own nostalgia to
Yeah,
this project, to bring some good memories from the past through this specific cell phone.
yeah, yeah. It had to happen that way. It had to come out, it'd be filmed this way,
Absolutely.
right? Those things are physical things that make sense. Uh, there were a couple things though, the next two songs, which are a little weirder. Pick Me Up, which uh, came out on July 5th. The visualizer came out on July 5th. That the description was a jar with a glowing substance. Oh man, we're really going, aren't we? We can do this in 10 minutes. I believe in us. So a jar, glowing jar. What
A glowing jar.
was, what do you do with
Well,
that?
I had to think about it a little because I had an image, I had an understanding of how it can look like, but I didn't have an idea of how to make it. So I was trying different things. I was playing with the lighting, um, different types of liquid that can be like backlighted by UV
Mhm.
flashlight or something like that, but it just didn't work. Um, so and also we needed it to be moving.
Yeah.
We didn't want to still liquid. So I had many ideas, with magnets and different
Magnets.
stuff, but yeah, I don't want to go there. It's too
We
complicated.
won't tell anyone.
No, no, no. So we ended up with finding a chemical solution. That's alchemy there,
Okay. Yeah.
which allowed us to create these bubbles. But bubbles themselves, they were, too transparent, not too obvious. We wanted them to be more obvious, to be more
Yeah.
to add more volume to the liquid. So the solution was found, and it consisted of vegetable oil, soda, and black dye.
And die. Okay.
And
Is
after,
that the kind of black stuff that I was also falling in, or
yeah, yeah. So initially we put the dye in the liquid, and then when it reached the end, it started to interact with soda and come back to
yeah.
the surface. And then this process just repeating itself, and
Yeah.
it's like it looks like a boiling oil,
Yeah. It got
and
very
with
aggressive at some point. Yeah.
yeah, and I like that because it resonated with my feeling of the song, and with the dramatic curve
Yeah.
of the musical composition. So it was like, okay, that's the right thing to do. That
Yeah.
fits. And I was sending you some test shots on WhatsApp, and I remember that you liked it. So I
Yeah.
thought, okay, that's the thing.
Yeah. It looked
We
really
should go
cool.
with it.
And it was something that I definitely didn't expect, but like you said, there's something about it, the maybe the chemical nature, or that bubbling nature, really fit the feeling of the song really, really well. And then, of course, you had a similar challenge to Heyo, which is available on the visualizer side as of the 12th of July. 12th. Also, a jar with a dark, shadowy substance. What I throw in these random things at you left and right. What was that? How that one's a little easier as dark substance, but then as well there needed to be some sort of movement. How'd you what'd you do with that, or how'd you come to that?
Well, that was another challenge because the dark liquid in the dark room,
Yeah.
you need to make it visible, and you need to figure out the lighting set that will emphasize the blackness of the liquid, but at the same time it will put some mood into it, and create a nice image. So this time I decided that maybe that's the moment where we should do some computer graphics magic.
Yeah.
And the movement of the liquid, it was done in post production, because that was the only way, to create a black liquid that moves and that can be seen in the darkness.
Yeah.
But I feel like it added this additional layer of creative solution, to
Yeah.
the whole project. So there's something artificial.
Yeah.
That's the only video which has post production graphics.
Yeah. Everything else is physically happening, and that, yeah. Yeah.
And I guess that's fine,
Yeah.
because we were not pursuing the idea that everything should be 100% natural,
No, yeah, not at all.
and analog. So I just way it liked. Oh, sorry. I just liked the way it looked.
Yeah. And what a way
Sorry.
to like it. No, no, not at all. And that's true. And it's the amount of being able to use kind of physical things to create mood in the space. Yeah, as well for Rear View, which comes out on the came out on the 19th of July. The visualizer, that is. Was that the easiest one to do? Because it's just
That it may look like it's more simple comparing to the rest, but it didn't take much less time to make it. It was just, more peaceful process to shoot it.
yeah,
I was using different angles, playing with the projection to get the most diverse imagery for the
yeah.
same combination of elements, and lighting. But yeah, that was a peaceful shooting. And as the Rear View is the last track of the EP, I just wanted it to be less disturbing,
Hmm.
more about acceptance and letting things go, and just like something to finish with. So
Yeah,
uh, it was like that.
yeah.
But it also took some time, to shoot it.
Was
Maybe
it a
like 3 or 4
projection?
hours.
3 or 4 hours.
Yeah, it was a projection, a real one, because that's the moment where I didn't want computer graphics,
Yeah,
because you cannot make it, feel real
yeah, yeah,
on post production. I like the interaction of like between the static noise and the surface of the wall.
yeah.
I also played a little with focus, and had some interesting effects which were included in the visualizer. So yeah, it was fun as well, and it was a pleasant ending.
Yeah, it very, very, I think, meditative, and I think that's true for the songs as a whole and for the visualizers, kind of to get lost in that. But there is something not exactly disconnected, but it does feel like you have a little space. Maybe it's because it's directly on a wall, but there it really does have that quality of being able to kind of look, look and think in a slightly separating way. Uh, it worked so well, which is pretty crazy. Now, are there any shapes moving around in the background?
You mean
It
in the
hidden
review?
within the. My eyes keep playing tricks on me, and it's like there's something in the static.
Well, there may be shapes in it, but I would say that they become visible with the condition that the creative part of your brain is actively involved in the
That's
process of perception.
I'm gonna say that there are ghosts in the machine. Um, and it was exactly what I wanted. Thank you, Alexey, so much for taking so much time with me today to talk about it.
Thank you,
Uh,
Victor.
it's been a pleasure. So also thank you to Enrage for connecting us and making it happen. I really love the visualizers, and they really add a needed element to everything, and it makes it feel real and in a space. So I really loved working with you. Alexey, if people want to just follow your art and they want to see that, where should they follow you at?
Well, just head on to my website, www.alexeystar.com, and you'll find the rest.
All right, I'll put it in the description of this video. Once again, thanks so much. I'm Viva Victor. You found me on YouTube, but if you want to follow me, Viva Victor Music. Thanks, guys, and thank you, Alexey. Bye bye.